Thanks so much for tuning in and joining me for this video. My name is James Mitchell, and I am an Oracle card deck creator and reader and a cartomancy coach. So if this is your first time here, I'd like to welcome you to my channel. Thank you for stopping by and spending time with me. And if you're a returning viewer and visitor, I'd like to say welcome back. So this is the Oracle Outlook, a video series that I have done over the years, and it highlights a weekly card reading for the week ahead. So we are moving into the week of November the 4th. So this is going to be the week that we are going to be exploring through the cards. The deck that I have chosen to use for this week's reading is one of my own making, because at this point in my journey with cards, I am highlighting or focusing mostly on the decks that I create. A lot of them are for my own personal use and work, and some are available on my Make Playing Cards marketplace site. So if you are interested in that, I will leave a link to the site below, and you could see the offerings that I have for the public. But this is one that I made for myself, I want to say maybe at the end of last year, 2023. And so this is the Mitchell Tarot Playing Cards. It is a combination of a deck that I used a couple of weeks ago, which I call the Mitchell Cartomancy cards. And that is a playing card deck that I had scenically illustrated for those people who were looking for something that had a way to approach the cards without having to do a whole lot of memorization. When I first got into card reading, I worked with playing cards solely. Because I had a dream about reading playing cards, so the playing cards are really my jam. I really love working with them, but a lot of people don't fancy them because they don't have pictures, right? I started reading tarot, and a lot of people dig tarot because they're scenic, meaning they're illustrated. So I came up with the idea, and the way I approached it was an offering for people who wanted to read the cards maybe more intuitively. But being a tarot person that I am, I created what I call an expansion pack with it, and so it is the major arcana. I created cards around that and threw them in, so now this is a mashup between the Mitchell Cartomancy cards and then the major arcana from tarot, and this is the result. So this is the deck we're going to be using, and the reason for the deck selection is because this is a very important week that we are moving through. Those of us who live in the United States are fully aware that this is the week of the U.S. presidential election. And before I let your mind go to places it shouldn't go, I am not going to be predicting who's going to be winning the election. I'm really not one for talking about politics. I believe that is everybody's personal business. But it is a consequential election either way. And so I'm just wanting to use the elements of tarot, because tarot for me, especially the major arcana, talks about the big, important issues, right? And so for me, this is a big and important issue, and I'm sure for a lot of you who may be tuning in feel the same way. So that is why I wanted to incorporate tarot into the playing cards. So with that in mind, I'm shuffling the cards, and I like to allow people to see that the cards are indeed being shuffled. Okay. Do it this way, and then I have my table next to me, so I'm going to put the cards on the table and just shuffle them some more. I like to do a shuffle 5 times because I work with the elements in my spiritual practice, so each shuffle is for one of the elements. So that's 3. I've done 3. 4, and then the final one is for spirit. I've already done earth, air, fire, water. This is spirit or ether, depending on how you want to language that. Now I like to cut the cards, so I'm cutting the cards away from me, and I'm fanning the cards out. And this week I usually do between 3 cards and 5 cards. I'm feeling inclined to do 5 today, so I'm looking through the fan at the cards that are getting my attention, and I'm just putting them aside. 2, 3, 4, and this one for 5. So I have the 5 cards selected. I'm picking the remainder of the deck up, and I will put it aside. So now I have the 5 cards face down, and I want to be in the moment when I turn them over and I see what they are. So first card, opening the line up, here we have the 4 of Spades. So the 4 of Spades is a card, as you can see by the image. It's talking about moving into a phase or moving into a phase of healing, recuperation, recovery. This is known in playing card cartomancy as the sickbed card. So it could be that we are moving through states of, I'm not going to say illness or sickness in the literal sense, more about moving through states of dis-ease, right? The suit of Spades for me is about the mind. It's the element of air, so it's about the mind and it's about consciousness, right? So it could just be a matter of dealing with thoughts that put us at places of dis-ease or in states of dis-ease. That's what I'm going to say. And it could also, again, be about a process of recovery, recuperation, and healing. For me, this card could be, for some people, the need to take a break. As I'm saying that, it makes me feel like maybe for some people, as we are moving into this week, especially, that finding ways to turn your mind off, right? To shut off the chatter. That's what's really coming to me. There may be a lot of chatter going on in your head, and it's about quieting the chatter. If you're a spiritually minded person, this is a great card to, around meditation. So it could just be a matter of like quieting the mind, quieting what we call in my spiritual circles that I travel in, the monkey mind, right? So it could be a matter of needing to shut off your mind so you can have peace, right? Peace of mind. I'm asking what else do I need to say about this? Right, there could also be some concerns about security and stability. The 4 in playing cartomancy for me with the system that I use. And let me talk about that because there's lots of different systems out there when it comes to cartomancy. My system is a combination of the works of Dr. Leo Louis Martello and Regina Russell, because I found a lot of agreement with their books. Martello's book is the classic It's Written in the Cards, which is unfortunately out of print. And Regina Russell's book is the Card Reader's Handbook. But both their systems had a lot of agreement in terms of what the cards meant, so I went with that. And then, of course, my own experience with the cards, having been a card reader for 25 years at this point. Okay, but for me, the number 4 in playing cartomancy represents stability and security. Now put that with the spades, so there may be thoughts about issues or problems with stability and security, right? So I want to put that out there as well. Asking what else do I want to say about this card? Yeah, so I talked about the idea about meditation. So if you're not a spiritually minded person, then the question for you to consider this week is, what are you meditating on? Because thoughts that we allow to ruminate in our head, then we begin to meditate on them, right? Whether you're actually meditating in your life or not, you're meditating on the ideas, you're meditating on the thoughts. So that's what I want to say about the 4 of Spades. Now the emblem, being a Spades, highlights problems, issues, or challenges, right? So we're coming in with the first card with some sort of problem, challenge, or block that may be needing to be worked out. Okay, next card. Here we have a Major Arcana card. So this is the card that I have called Shadow. In traditional tarot, this is known as the Devil. Interesting, right? So here we have, and the image, let me stick with the image for a moment. The image has a person wearing a mask, right? So this is about our shadow side, our ego, being immersed in our ego, but this is also about people who are not showing us who they really are, right? Now that could be, let's internalize that or make it about the self. So it could be, this is an opportunity there. Are you really showing who you are to the world at large? Or are there aspects of yourself that you are keeping to yourself, right? Are you wearing a face, right? Are you wearing a mask? Are you concealing something, hiding something, right? But in a larger sense, because this is a major arcana card, this would suggest that there are some elements of situations or experiences where we're not getting the full story or we're seeing the full image. Now, this is also a card about limitation and restriction, right? And here we have with the first card this idea about, you know, stability or instability, insecurity, that kind of thing, right? Because it's a 4 with a spade. And then here we have a person who's wearing a mask, right? So there may be some self-esteem issues going on, some self-esteem work that we may need to do for ourselves. But in the external sense, this may be about people who are not showing us who they really are. It's making me feel like some pretense, if you will, right? Now, the shadow card is also about temptations. It's about guilty pleasures, things of that nature. So it may be like we are recovering, right? Because I did say about healing, recovery, recuperation from being immersed in guilty pleasures, right? So there is that as well. And so maybe there is some sort of item, habit, tendency that is a guilty pleasure that maybe the cards are encouraging you to maybe kind of take a break from, right? So that's going to mean something different to everyone. And I will put my disclaimer here at this point that not everything that is said in this reading is going to resonate 100% with 100% of the people who look at it, this video, right? So you kind of have to take out what resonates with you and discard what doesn't. That's my disclaimer. Okay, so this is what I'm seeing with the shadow card. I may come back to this card, right? Middle card. The middle card for me is usually like, I read it as like the heart of the matter, the central issue, or the focus. With that being said, here we have the 4 of diamonds. Now the 4 of diamonds is also about material stability and material security, right? So I find it interesting that if you notice, I look for patterns. Here we have the number 4 repeating twice. So the 4 is about foundation. It's about hard work, you know, putting the hard work in to build something. The 4 is a number of building, right? But it's also, in playing cartomancy, for me, it represents stability and security, right? So here we have issues with the mind, 4 of spades, and then here we have physical issues regarding security and stability. So this is a card for me that suggests, based on the image, one's material security in terms of saving up. The image is a safety deposit box in a bank, right? So this card can literally be about savings. What do you have saved up? What are you saving for, right? It could also be about conservation, right? Conserving something, retaining something, holding on to something. And I will share this. I normally don't share personal things, especially when it comes to politics. But my brother, who lives in another place in the world, he said to me, because he knew I was going to be voting this week, and he said to me, make sure that you have taken money out of the bank. You know, he's just thinking there's going to be a little bit of upheaval, as the results of the election plays itself out. And so he's saying, make sure you have money, take some money out of the bank. Make sure you have money on you. So I'm thinking of him telling me this when I'm looking at this card. And I'm not sitting here trying to predict any doom or gloom. That's not how I roll. But it is a thought to consider based on the image. It's like, what are you saving up for? Or do you have some material resources at your disposal that you can afford to pull out if you need to? So that's how I'm going to be looking at the 4 of diamonds right now. Next card. Ooh, I love the pattern. So here we have another major arcana card. So you notice the pattern. We had a 4, then we had a major arcana card, another 4, now another major arcana card. And so now this is temperance. And the thing that I noticed with the 2 majors is that we're moving from the 15th card in the major arcana to the 14th card. So temperance is a card that talks about moderation. So I'm seeing a pattern here with the Four of Spades talking about healing, recovery, recuperation. And then I talked about with the shadow card, guilty pleasures, temptations, things like that. And then here we have a card that talks about moderation, right? So for some people, you're really being asked to examine your life and maybe consider removing or limiting or restricting maybe some things that are not in your best and highest good. I talked about this yesterday in a different context with a different group of people, so I will just share a story. So there was a period of time where I loved this product or these products. They were caffeinated drinks, sodas, and one was called Volt and one was called Surge, if you remember, right? And I was talking that I loved drinking these and I would drink them on the job, right? So they would get me through the day, right? Because they were said to have like extra caffeine and extra sugar, okay? And when I wasn't at work, I would wake up and I would have these terrible headaches. And they were all day affairs. And for the longest time, I couldn't figure out why I was having these headaches. And then I had a dream. And basically the gist of the dream, without making this a long story, basically the gist of the dream was about me needing to quit caffeine, right? And it was about these drinks in particular. And I woke up and I said, oh, I don't know if I can do that. But I made my mind up. And because I made my mind up to quit, and I quit cold turkey with those drinks. I mean, I didn't have one after that dream. I didn't have any withdrawals because I realized that the headaches were the result of caffeine withdrawal. Yeah. So I'm saying that to say, because I love the image of a person who's making drinks, right? That it could just be a matter of what are you consuming, and that could be a food, a beverage, or some other type of consumption that it may be time to consider getting yourself off, weaning yourself off, limiting how much of that you are exposing yourself to, right? So I'm seeing that with temperance. Now, with the idea here, if I go with the idea that we're moving through the week of the election, and now we're moving as the cards go on, we're moving towards the end of the week, let's say, then this could just be a matter of being patient with the results, right? So it could just be a matter of like the results may not come quickly. And so for those of us who are heavily invested in a outcome, I'm just going to say an outcome, may need to practice some patience. There may be some issues in situations where some compromise is going to need to be reached, because temperance is a card that represents compromise to me, that kind of thing. So again, moderation, patience, and maybe some areas in life where we have to practice the art of compromise. Right? All right. And now, last card. Okay. And here we have another major arcana card. This is the Empress. So the Empress for me is all about productivity. It's about being fruitful, right? You can see clearly on the image that there's a lot of fruit. So it represents like our actions, our efforts are bearing fruit, right? So it's the idea of being fruitful and multiplying, right? That's the idea I went with the image here, because in the traditional tarot image, the Empress is a woman who is typically or most often index pregnant, right? So, the idea here was like pregnant with possibilities, things of that nature. Now, I talked about with the previous card about practicing the art of being patient, yeah? Well, this card is about managing your expectations, right? Because, like I said, with the Empress being pregnant, it's a pun for expecting and therefore expectations. So this is a card that says, as the week goes on, there may be a need to manage your expectations regarding certain people, right? So when I tell that to people, it's usually a sign like, what are the expectations that we're putting on people, and can they realistically fulfill those expectations, right? And it could also be putting it on the self. What are you expecting for yourself, right? Are the expectations that you have for yourself realistic, right? And so it's just taking taking a look at that either for the self or for the expectations that we have for people out in the world around us, right? But I'm thinking like if the cards are talking about one particular story where in order to heal and recover and recuperate from a particular guilty pleasure, something that we are engaging in, consuming, either literally or metaphorically, that is not in our best and highest good, and we make the decision to moderate that, to wean ourselves off from that, then it shows that the end result, that we are going to see the fruits of our efforts. And so on that note, I'm going to end this week's Oracle Outlook reading. Again, my name is James Mitchell. Thank you so much. If you've made it all the way through the video to this point, thank you so much for sticking with me and staying throughout the video and giving me the gift of your time. I know these days you could make lots of choices and decisions with how you spend your time, so I'm glad that you chose to spend some time with me. As I wrap up, I'm going to hold the space for us to meet again in the next video reading. So until then, I hope you have a wonderful week. Take care and be well.